Welcome to today's conversation. My name is Lindsay Young. I'm the president of Aspens Media. Aspens, we help businesses primarily in distribution markets tell their stories and share their expertise. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, you can throw those in the comments on the right or wherever they are on your screen. I'll try to get to them, provided I don't have any more technical difficulties. Or we'll leave time for Q&A at the end. This is, as you guys probably figured out, my first time live streaming to LinkedIn. So thank you again for your patience ahead of time. And sorry for the delay. We're going to have this recording showing. We'll provide this after the fact. For those of you listening on our podcast, Attract, Engage, Grow, or on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. So case studies, when done well, heck, even when they're done just okay, can be a very effective part of your marketing mix. Are you using case studies to give your prospects the story they want? Today, I'm going to share best practices for creating and leveraging case studies and why it's important to let your customers speak for you. So case studies shift the point of view, right? They tell your customers stories, which is the essence of what sales and marketing should really be. They showcase how customers have truly benefited from your products and services. They also provide an inside look at the way you work. Most of this webinar will just be focused on getting the best story and telling it in the most impactful way. It's really about doing the basics well. It's not necessarily about the medium, whether that's written, video, or in other ways. Maybe we can do a webinar on repurposing content at some point to talk about all the ways you can present things like case studies and other content that you create. But for this specific webinar, we're going to talk today about case studies and the basics. All right. So I think many of these benefits are going to be obvious, but there are a few other silver linings for case studies that I think too many companies don't take full advantage of. So we're going to cover those as well. So this first one, build credibility. This is the obvious one that most of us are already familiar with. You're providing a third-party view, aka your customers, of your company and its products and services. Done well, I think it will make you appear more trustworthy to prospects. You're really showing off actual customer experiences. And I kind of want to add to that too, that make sure that when you're producing case studies, that they're authentic, they're real, they're actual customer, they ring true. You're not exaggerating the impact you had. Show off actual customer experiences and you're going to build trust with your prospects. The second thing, resonate with prospects' pain points. So today's happy customers, they were yesterday's prospects. They experienced a pain or a challenge and you helped them overcome it. You want your prospects to see themselves in the case study. You want them to identify with customer struggles. The more specific, the better. The third one, engage prospects with storytelling, because who doesn't love a good story? Case studies can share interesting, relevant stories that engage your prospects because, ultimately your prospects are people too, and so are your customers. The characters in your story are your customers and their challenges are the crux of the plot. I think it's really important to tell a good story if you want people to actually read it. I have a journalism background. I've written my fair share of human interest stories, so I tend to approach my writing in that style. Don't be afraid to use a little journalistic license to make the case study an engaging read. Set the scene, use quotes from the customer that are more than just, this product is awesome. Really paint a picture of what their life was like before and after they used your product or service. Reveal invaluable customer insight. The interviews you conduct to put a case study together are literal gold for your business. In addition to fueling the case study, I actually have an updated list of all the other ways you can leverage this customer insight. You can really use them to direct your next steps in so many different ways. They contain some of the most direct, honest and focused feedback you're probably going to receive, especially if you let a third party conduct the interview. So we've done dozens and dozens, probably 100 or more case studies for our clients. And we conduct all of those interviews, most of them on our own. And they tend to provide an opportunity for the customer to talk about a lot of extra things that maybe they wouldn't feel fully comfortable or honest about with the actual client on the call. And that's amazing. That's literal gold. So you learn what the customers really care about, what benefits are most important to them, any issues, the customer may have had with your process, your product or service. You learn what maybe you could have done better in the process, which can, inform tweaks to your own process to help future engagements. Why customers chose you over the competition, which can inform your sales and marketing pitches. You can learn who or what made the biggest difference on the project. Was it that initial audit that you did? Was it a particular person that they worked with? And all of that can help you inform your sales conversations, your marketing material. It can help you tweak your messaging. It can help you improve your processes, your products or services. You could add new services or features that customers want or wish you had. You can identify star performers or processes to model future products. You can add more specificity and authenticity. I'm a big fan of authenticity in sales and marketing to your audience personas. Better understanding what your customers really care about is just so invaluable, so important. There's so many side benefits of talking to your customers, and we really recommend you do it, whether it's for a case study or not, as often as you can, and on the record. So I always like to point out these side benefits of case studies because talking to your customers, that's as real as it gets about the impact that your products and services are having. We're going to go ahead and jump into the actual process that we approach case studies with and the lessons we've learned, the best practices, and some of the mistakes that we see people making. First, I want to kind of go back. Actually, I had this slide here, and I just thought this was a really great graphic. This is from SEMrush, and they do a ton of research like this. And this is talking about where case studies belong in the funnel. And we're talking about the sales funnel. The top is, of course, the top of the funnel, brand awareness. Probably someone's not ready to buy yet. Middle of the funnel, they're starting to evaluate their options, what kind of solutions exist out there. And then bottom of the funnel, they're actually trying to decide who they're going to go with and what solution they're going to use to solve their problem. So as you can see, this is, surveys of marketers, case studies. I group success stories, customer reviews, use cases, case studies, kind of all in the same bucket. But as you can see, case studies regularly rank kind of toward the top in terms of view of effectiveness in the funnel. So I just thought that was a good graphic and just kind of reinforces the value. I love case studies, which is why we're having this conversation right now. So let's talk about the process. Before you get going, I think it's really, really, really important to focus on your goals. Why are you creating a case study? Why are you putting all that effort in? Why are you investing in case studies? What sales or marketing goal are you supporting? Let's say you want to showcase your core service, maybe the primary area that you're growing in. Maybe you want to grow in a certain market. You want to expand your reach in food and beverage, for example. So maybe you want to give your brand more credibility by showcasing a well-known customer. Maybe you want to educate your members. We do case studies quarterly for a buying group in the industrial distribution sector. And part of the goal of these is to share not only the success that these channel partners are having with this group, but also to educate and share what these companies are doing that's working really well in order to inspire other members in similar situations. So we incorporate a lot of examples of how these channel partners are working together, very concrete, examples. So there's a lot of reasons to have case studies. Please make sure you understand what your goal is. Next, you need to select which story to tell. There's a lot of ways you can do this. And I recognize, because we've done this a lot, that finding case studies, finding customers willing to participate can be a challenge. And oftentimes, when you work with sales reps, CSRs, account managers, whoever it is that's, front facing to the customer, they can be reluctant sometimes to reach out to even their best customers to participate in a case study. One, don't be afraid. It never hurts to ask. No, never hurt anyone. But two, your product service doesn't have to be absolutely perfect in every way for that customer in order to move forward on a case study. What we're looking for is how you've helped them. And in any relationship, there's going to be ups and downs. So never be afraid to ask. So we recommend you tap into sales reps, customer service reps, account managers to identify customers, because they're the ones working with their customers day in and day out. Some of our clients have incentivized this. There's ways to incentivize sales reps, but I'd say remind your sales reps, remind your account managers of the benefits for them beyond just helping you out. They're going to be able to use this content to help their customers. They're going to be able to use this content to help, to reach prospects. But don't just rely on them. Evaluate those options with a critical eye. I'm a fan of making sure the customer has been with you long enough to see real results. Make sure the customer also aligns with the above goal. Targeting food and bev, for example, make sure you find a customer in food and bev who has a good story and has seen strong results. Make sure they are similar to your target prospects. Let's say you're a tech company, a software company targeting distributors, but your ideal customer size is between 100 million and 500 million in revenue. Maybe don't. You could, but maybe don't prioritize case studies of companies that are maybe 20 million. They're going to be a lot smaller. They might just have one branch. Their issues and pain points are going to be different than your ideal customer profile. So, keep that in mind, because you want to be strategic about this. Again, a testimonial from a $20 million distributor for that tech company that might be targeting mid-sized distributors, still valuable to have people say good things about you. But in terms of investing your time and money in building out a deeper case study and videos and all of that, maybe try to prioritize based on strategically how it's going to help you achieve your goals. Let's see here. Know what you want to include in each case study. I think this is a pretty straightforward thing. You want the challenge, you want the solutions, you want the results. But, as I said in the, earlier in this webinar, you also want to think about, are there other goals that you're trying to reach? Education, lessons learned, tips, that sort of thing. Make sure you just go in knowing kind of what the components are that you're going to include in this case study. But challenge, solutions, results are the typical structure. Ask for the story ahead of time with your internal contacts. And that will help you prepare for an interview and determine what you will ask. You want to go in with an idea, right? You don't want to go into a call with the customer and say, hey, I have no idea the service we provided you, so could you tell me about that? No, you want to know the basics before you go into talk to them. But don't be surprised if your customer story doesn't necessarily match your internal contact story perfectly. It's totally okay. Let them tell the story. That's the title of this webinar. It's the customer perspective that matters. Remember that. And I'm going to go back to that later as well. But that also feeds into kind of those side benefits of doing these customer interviews for case studies. Draft your questions. So this is a good list, right? And it's actually, if you could see this on the screen, this is probably even too many questions to go into an interview with. I probably come into interviews with customers when I do case studies, maybe with 5 questions, right? Unless I have a lot of details and I know specifically what we're going to cover, I want to keep it, short and sweet, because I know that we're always going to diverge and do a lot of asking of why and how and digging into more detail. However, this is a really good starting point, and I can share this in a LinkedIn post later if you want to copy and paste it anywhere. but this should give you a good start to kind of the types of questions you want to ask. Again, the idea is to get them to talk about them and then not necessarily just talk about the solution. So, let them tell their story. What happened before what triggered them to reach out to you in the first place? Tell us that story. What did you finally get fed up with? What process was that you were like, nope, I need to reach out to these guys and see if there's a way that they can help me fix it. Let them tell that story. So I probably come in with maybe a half this, but I wanted to provide you with some ideas. Ask questions that are open-ended, if you can, and lead to a story. I want to share the 5 W's and the H. This is something that I am very passionate about, is asking follow-up questions, right? And you can use who, what, where, when, why, and how as those kind of follow-ups. So why did you do this? How did that work? Walk me through it. Where did this happen, right? Who was involved with that? What? You get the idea. Follow-up questions are really valuable and can often give you the quotes or the detail that you need to really tell your story. It can really uncover like the real color that you need to make your case study shine. We recommend you send questions to the customer ahead of time, or bullets, aka we want to cover these things. But let them know you might stray from the list. And then, of course, the next step in the process is to conduct the actual interview. One tip that I have is to actually limit the number of people. When you do an interview for a case study, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on the interview portion, but that's where you're going to get all the material that you need to make this an amazing case study and asset for your sales and marketing team. So limit the number of people on that call. I've been on calls where there are like 5 or 6 people, and it's so hard to get a smooth, straightforward story when there's 5 different people chiming in and correcting people and jumping in and interrupting the flow. I strongly recommend having just the interview and interviewee on the call. If the customer wants more, I think that's fine, but maybe try for no more than 2 on their side, because you can always do another interview if they want to capture multiple perspectives, and you can do that on your side too. I don't actually recommend having the account manager or contact, and I know I'm kind of getting in the weeds a little bit, but I really believe strongly in this. I don't actually recommend having an account manager or the contact at your company that the customer usually works with on the call, because it could discourage your customer from speaking more freely, more openly about maybe the challenges or what didn't go so well. It also results in less interruptions. If you want them to tell their story, you got to let them tell their story. You can get your internal contact story before or after to complement the customer's point of view and fill in any gaps. You can also share the recording and transcript with your internal contacts so they know what was discussed. There's not really a great reason for them to be on the call. And then just a reminder, record the call. And if you want, you can do a video recording of your interview at the same time, and I'll talk about that later. But if you do that and you plan to use clips, just make sure the customer's aware of it before you do it. All right, so writing your case study, I've kind of covered this already. Make sure you integrate great quotes, highlight quantifiable results, share anecdotes, and make sure that you use a good editor, because editors are your friend. Send to the customer to get their review and approval. You really want them to be comfortable with the results, and ensure that you have everything accurate. You really want to make sure that nothing you've written is exaggerated or incorrect. All right, so let's talk best practices. I just covered this one. That's the second one here. Run the draft in the final past your customer. They're going to find something to edit, and it builds trust that you're not going to run something that might not be fully, again, accurate. You really want them to be part of the process. I've also seen companies create content in a way, or repurpose that case study in a way that their customer can show off their success in this area. Because remember, You're showing off your success with your product or service with this customer, but they also experienced a success. So if there's a way that they can leverage and show off their success with you, having them on board, I think that'd be really powerful. Repurpose case studies. Okay, so there are a lot of ways to repurpose case studies. Okay, so this should go beyond just putting the case study on your website. Clearly, you want to put the case study on your website, but there's so many other ways to leverage this material. Okay, you could you could pull testimonials out from the case study. And because remember, there's lots of quotes and lots of great call outs there and data points that you could call out and feature on different parts of your site or sales and marketing material. You can create blog posts, lessons from our customers, for example, pulling ideas and thoughts out from those case studies. You can incorporate examples into articles, ebooks, and so on. Let's say that you have a nice long article on vendor managed inventory, talking about how it works and best practices and whatnot. And you have a case study about a customer who succeeded using the VMI service. You could pull in that story, like a little short blurb, to add to your blog and add more personality and show off your expertise and add something that makes it more yours to the piece. You can make video clips. Again, if you get on a Zoom call and you record your initial interview, as long as you have permission so that they can, get dressed up a little, do their hair, whatever, and make sure it's clear that you're doing that, so that you're doing the interview and recording them at the same time so you can pull clips from that interview. It's totally okay. Then you have that video recording and you can do clips and put those and use those in multiple ways. Or do a short follow-up interview on a video that captures elements of the story. A PDF, of course. Create a PDF that makes it easy for sales reps to print something out, drop it off with a customer, or email to someone, or that somebody can download from your website. Create a slide or two based on each case study that sales can use in presentations. You get the point. There's lots of ways to repurpose. Okay. Avoid vague language. So I don't think corporate tease, which I have on this slide, is a real word, but my whole point is to get specific, speak clearly. Don't use a lot of I use optimize probably more than I should, but don't use lots of optimizes and synergies and corporate tease jargon. Really speak in the case study like you're talking to a friend at the bar, and you're sharing a success story that you had. Because you are, right? You're sharing a success story. Talk to people like they're people. Really make sure that your words are not getting in the way of the story. To that end, humanize your customers. Use quotes, showcase anecdotes, because you're talking to people. Your customers are people, your prospects are people. Make sure that they can relate to the people in their case study. Use data. People want to see real tangible results. Even if they don't have super specific data, you can usually get some examples of impact. So that you might be able to get an actual number. We saw a 20% improvement in X, but you might also just get some less specific anecdotes, but that have a real impact on someone's individual life. This now takes 2 hours instead of 3 days. There's a lot of automation out there right now, and we work with some software companies that work with distributors and manufacturers, and they offer a lot of automation capabilities, either order processing or financial accounting. And a lot of those have very tangible results in terms of the amount of time they save the individuals in doing their work, which is huge, right? Or they reduce workarounds, right? The step thing used to take 20 steps and now it takes 3, right? That's very real. Like, people feel very connected to stories like that. So if you don't have specific numbers, at least have really cool examples like that. Be specific in your headlines. So when you're specific in your headlines, what I mean by that is you're not just saying, hey, case study, ABC company succeeds with us. No, be specific. The people that want to, give them a reason to read the headline or read the case study. ABC company saves 20% on X, right? or ABC company cuts process from X to Y, or ABC company gets rid of downtime, right? Make sure that it's something that's going to catch someone's eye and they're going to want to read about how they did that. And make sure that your case studies look good too. We have a graphic design team. They're awesome at 3 Aspens. And we make sure that our customers, if they don't already have great templates for their case studies, we make sure to create a well-designed template so that it's professional and branded and consistent from case study to case study. Make sure that they look good and make sure they're designed well so it's not just one big block of text. Make sure you're calling out good data points, having pull quotes so that people can scan it and get what they want and learn about your company in that way. Same with video. You could just do a quick clip on video. Like I said, that's not a problem, but you could also have a video to add graphics to the front and bottom and, at the, in the bottom of the video, you could spruce it up a little bit. So, it doesn't take a lot these days. There's a lot of great tools. There's companies like 3 Aspens that can help you out. So just make sure that you're getting the most out of your case study by making sure that the published treatment is nice, professional, and branded. I have one question that I'm going to answer coming in from one of my teammates. She says, we've helped many companies develop case studies over the year. Yes, we have. A common question that we get is how in depth they should be. So what are your thoughts on ideal length and depth of a case study? It's a great question. I would like to say that I think a case study could be 300 words, which is like half a Word doc, or 2,000 words and still be effective. However, 2,000 words is pretty long if you don't know how long that is in word count. However, I feel like less is more. I do like a well-told story that's kind of in an article form, but I don't think you have to include every single detail. You don't have to dwell on all of your product details, right? You don't have to provide a whole synopsis of your service in there. Only include what matters and what's going to resonate with the prospects, and then link off or add more information in other places so they can access more information on the products and solutions if they want to. Really keep the focus on the customer and their story and only include what actually matters. We also format our case studies and we make sure that we have a lot of subheads, which helps make it more scannable. So it's not just one big block of text. Yeah, so it's not a great answer, but I do think you don't want to go too short because you're not going to get the opportunity to share the full story. But if you go too long, that takes a really skilled writer and editor to make sure that doesn't read like it's long and heavy, because people will read what's good. They'll read good stories. But if you don't tell a good story for 2,000 words, then you're going to lose them a third of the way through and it won't have mattered. So I think the key is format and saying what you need to say and then stop. So not too long, but also not too short. I'm sure that was very helpful. All right, so let's look at common mistakes. And this is my last part. So if you guys have any other questions, please drop them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them. Again, this was kind of the basics of case studies. So we're trying to just kind of give you the framework that we work in and the best practices we follow and the mistakes we try to avoid when we're creating case studies for our clients, because case studies are such a powerful tool. So if you can do it really well, I think it's going to be really hard for your competitors to compete. So let's talk about some common mistakes that we see. One, not letting the conversation flow. So we're kind of referring to the interview process. Again, a really critical part of getting your case studies right is having a good interview. And if you're not an expert interview, it's totally okay. I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people in my life. And so one of the things that I have learned to do and my team has learned to do is to just let the conversation flow, right? Think of interviewing customers as just having a conversation with someone at the bar. Make them comfortable. Make it feel like a conversation with a friend. I should do another session sometime on just interviewing for marketers who are interested in that, marketers and others. I think the other thing you want to avoid is sticking too closely to your question list. Yes, totally come in with the questions you need answered, pain points, solutions, benefits, getting data and anecdotes. But don't be afraid to go a little bit off course. That's often where the gems are, those that you would never have thought to know or ask about, never have thought or knew to ask about, right? Because we don't know everything that went on at that customer. So if you don't let the conversation flow a little bit, you're not going to uncover those gems. And don't get lost in the product details. This is a story. As I said before, no one's going to keep reading if you get too into the weeds. This is about business benefits, not product features. How does your product or service affect a company's day to day and their employees day to day, right? Because again, this might be B2B, but people are making the decisions. It's affecting people's lives at work. Choosing their own customer. We kind of talked about this before. You're probably going to get something great to use out of any customer who's willing to do a case study interview, because those are your champions. Even if it's just a testimonial and a short overview of how you help them. Great. Take advantage of that. However, because that doesn't hurt. But however, if you want a really impactful case study, make sure you're choosing carefully. Find an ideal customer who's seen some great successes with your support. Again, make sure they align with the goal of why you're doing the case study in the first place. I think that's it. Wow, we got through that. Is there anybody else that has questions? I hope you guys at least got a few ideas. You were inspired a little bit to push forward on your own case study program. We have clients that do case studies every couple of months or every quarter. Work it into your content plan. Recognize that case studies are going to last or are going to take a long time to do and complete, because you're involving multiple parties. You have to get approval from customers who have other things that are more important in the moment, for example. So it's not just something that you can just throw together in a week. But I think the time and the investment is worth it for any company that needs some additional, support on the sales and marketing side. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you guys all for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream that I finally got right. Thank you guys.